Magnet attached to all silver-colored materials. Is it correct? Okay, to get an initial idea regarding our last part of the presentation, let's watch this short video that has been taken from the YouTube site. So enjoy watching. Okay, what do you think about the video? Okay, first of all, my name is Nur Atika binti Majafar that will lead the final part of our presentation, which is possible misconception. Okay, based on the video explained that magnet do not stick to all silver colored material, but they only stick to material that made of metal. To allow that magnet to work. This is one of the example of a misconception that may be believed by most students. This is because most of the metal material are colored with silver. So they believe that magnet stick to all silver colored materials. Because of that, we have to tell them that magnet only stick to material made of metal. Okay, do you understand? If yes, that's the general idea of misconception. Okay, now we will start our discussion with the possible misconception in Physics Form 5 textbook. Okay, based on what I have explained earlier, of course, everyone already knows the general idea of misconception, right? But what is actual meaning of misconception? Misconception can be defined as the ideas that provide an incorrect understanding. Repeat, incorrect understanding means wrong of such ideas, object, or event. They are constructed based on a person's experience. Okay, when we think that is right but actually is wrong, it can be called as misconception. Next is misconception in science. Misconceptions in science are commonly held beliefs about science that have no basis in actual scientific fact. Okay, it's getting hard when they are told they are wrong. They often have a hard time to giving up their misconception, especially if they have had the misconception for a long time. Okay, imagine someone telling you that your father was not actually your father but your mother. It's hard for you to believe that. It's hard, right? Okay, go for the next section. Okay, we will get to know one by one the types of misconception. The first type of misconception is preconceived notion. This type is related to incomplete observation or everyday experience. For example, is when students believe that heavy object fall faster than a light object. Is it true? No, right? Next is non-scientific belief. Non-scientific belief includes view learned by students from source other than scientific education, such as religious, mythical teaching, and so on. For example, some students have learned through religious instruction about an abbreviated history of the earth and its life form. The disparity between this widely held belief and the scientific evidence for a far more extended prehistory has led to considerable controversy in teaching of science. Okay, the third type of misconception is conceptual misunderstanding. This conception is when students misapplying a general principle of science. For example, they believe that blood flow like ocean tides or tornadoes attract to mobile home parks. The fourth type of misconception is vernacular misconception. Vernacular misconception arises from the use of words that mean one thing in everyday life and another thing in scientific method. For example, word, sunrise, sets, and many more. Or in the easy way, we can say that student misunderstanding about the meaning of words. The fifth one is factual misconception. Okay, factual misconception are falsities often learned at an early age and retained unchallenged into adulthood. Okay, if you think about it, the idea shows a rocket, explosion outside the Earth cell and big sound heard. Boom. The idea is wrong. The truth is actually sound needs a medium to be heard, and there's no medium in vacuum, right? So how can we hear the sound? Okay, that's all about the type of misconception in science. Now is the time to know what is the possible misconception that exists in Physics Form 5 textbooks. Misconception 1 stated that if velocity equal to 0, then acceleration and resultant force must be 0. Okay, this statement is right, but we can use this in all motion. Okay, some students think that, oh, if v equal to 0 means no motion, so acceleration and force must also be 0. So, okay guys, let's think about the projectile shoot straight up at its peak. Acceleration is not equal to 0 at the peak end of a projectile motion. Velocity can be 0 there, but acceleration not. If acceleration was 0 at the peak, force net would be 0 as well. So which means gravity would have to be turned off. So the conclusion is we get here is A equal to 0 throughout the whole trip, including the high point. Okay, the second misconception is about an object is hard to pull because it is heavy. Is it true? No. While a heavy object is really hard to pull, it is not because of its weight, but because of inertia and mass. It is important to note that inertia is resistant to change motion rather than just motion itself. Based on one website, Newton's first law of motion states that an object at rest stay at rest, an object in motion stay in motion with the same speed and in the same direction unless acted upon by the ambient force. In fact, it is a natural tendency of objects to resist change in their state of motion. This tendency to resist change in their state of motion is described as inertia. Okay, for example, when we want to pull a box, so the inertia that acting upon the box keep on resist what we are trying to do. That's why the box doesn't move. Same goes to the boy who want to pull his friend. The inertia and mass keep on resist for what they are doing. Okay, the third misconception is about nuclear energy. Some people state that nuclear energy is bad for the environment. You too, right? Okay, the truth is nuclear reactors emit no greenhouse gases during operation. Okay, based on one article in website published by U.S. Energy Information Administration, it states that unlike fossil fuel, fired power plant, nuclear reactors do not produce air pollution or carbon dioxide while operating. It generates nearly 800 billion kilowatt hours of electricity each year and produce more than half of the nation's emission-free electricity. Okay, let's think. This can avoid more than 470 million metric tons of carbon each year, which is the equivalent of removing 100 million cars off the roads. Is it possible to remove 100 million cars of in the road? Of course not. So that's why we use nuclear energy. More safe to environment. Okay, the last misconception is about people always think that sun is a big yellow ball of fire. Is it true? The color of sun is yellow, red or orange? No, the truth is it is a big whitish ball of plasma with temperature about 5800 Kelvin. Okay, the sun looks yellow to us because short wavelength colors such as blue, green, violet get scattered as they pass through Earth's atmosphere, leaving us to see the longer wavelength. Okay, based on one article written by Dr. Christopher Esbert, he stated that the color of sun is white. Hmm. In general, the sun emits all color of the rainbow, so that's why we can see so many different color in the world under the illumination of sunlight. Okay, let's think about this. If sunlight were purely green or red, if sunlight were purely red, then everything outside will look red and dark, right? But now we can see the greenness of the cactus, the blueness of the butterfly wings under sunlight because sunlight contains green and blue light. Same goes to all the other colors. The fact that you see all the fundamental color present in a rainbow, which is sunlight split by mist, and no colors are missing is direct evidence that sunlight is white. Okay, that's all about the 4 misconception that exists in this textbook. Okay, in conclusion, this physics textbook Form 5 contains content and knowledge that is easy to understand and also understood by all students. In general, it will be easier to learn if all the information is given is easier to understand and relate to their daily life. But the something wrong is Form 5 physics textbook does not contain learning objective and learning outcomes. This should be taken into account by the book designer because if there is no learning objective and learning outcome, it will affect the teachers and students. This is because teachers will not know what is important to teach and may stray far from the content that is important. Meanwhile, students do not know what the content they should press, right? And what the knowledge that just knowledge. In addition, there are also some possible misconceptions that may influence students from knowing the real content. So they have to make a lot of effort to read a lot of article and so on to make sure that they get the right information. Okay, that's all from me for possible misconception part and conclusion part in this presentation. Okay, after this, we will do a short discussion in WhatsApp group and continue with game session. We will play the game which is Kahoot game through the live session. So students should be alert to the Google link that will be given shortly in WhatsApp. So that's all for me. Thank you.